Look, I'm not saying that any of these M&Ms deserve to be eaten, but if someone did deserve to be eaten, it would be him.
None of these chicks want to go see a movie on Sunday. You know, it's always, I'm rearranging my sock drawer. I'm being deported. I'd love to, but I'm in rehab. Come on, ladies.
Red is just super narcissistic. He's only focused on himself. He's incredibly arrogant, kind of a cocky leader. He's just a sour spot of the entire friend group. I don't know why he insists on staying around, because it seems like he doesn't like any of them. It just doesn't really... Did he just sexually harass someone?
Oh, no. You can't take my dignity, Red.
No?
Oh, you can.
Find a promotional pack of stark naked M&Ms.
That's it. I'm eating him. What the fuck is he gonna do about it? The first thing we need to understand is just how big these guys actually are. They've been through a ton of iterations. Most recently in 2022, they became woke.
The green M&M, you will notice, is no longer wearing sexy boots. When you're totally turned off, we've achieved equity. They've won.
And they're a lot smaller than I initially thought. Standing next to humans, you know, it's not even close. They look like they're somewhere around 2 feet tall. Obviously, that's not gonna be good enough for this. We need to figure out how big Red is. Yes, his name is actually just Red, by the way. This was one of the hardest parts of the entire investigation. The first is that their sizes might vary by video. They might not have an exact size that the editors are concerned about. The next is that there's just nowhere that you find height anywhere. The wiki doesn't say anything about it. It does say that he's a narcissist and kind of just an asshole, and I tend to agree with that. And finally, they're just always in fake environments. There's nothing to really grasp onto. You know, they're in a completely fake press conference or just in some living room. Maybe this couch exists, but finding this couch and then taking meaningful measurements from it doesn't really work. We need to find Red next to something that we can actually measure. Luckily, we found something in the 2024 Super Bowl ad.
The size of those who almost won a Super Bowl.
Almost.
And Scarlett Johansson.
I've lost 2 Oscar races.
In the same year.
Here we have our victim standing right next to Scarlett Johansson, someone who is a real person. And this is a great measurement because she's looking pretty much level, so we can start to look at how they stack up. The very top of Red's head goes right near her lower lip, and then the bottom of Red is kind of right towards the bottom of the chest area. So now it's time to map this shit. We just have a full body picture of Scarlett Johansson. We can find those measurements, what Red would look like, you know, standing next to a full body Scarlett Johansson. And then if we just copy and paste that same size, we can kind of see where we're sitting. If I bring it down to her toes, we have about 5 Reds. Some numbers need to come off of here. Firstly, she's wearing heels, which is obviously going to raise a little bit of height. Secondly, her hair has some volume to it, so we don't know where her actual like forehead is versus like the hair that's like swooped and held up. You know what I mean. So accounting for that, I kind of tried to rest at her ankles and go to like the top of the visible forehead. We're looking at just about 4.5 Reds. Scarlett Johansson is 5'3", also known as 63 inches. We know that she's also 5.5 Reds tall. So if we divide those, we actually get a really nice just whole number of 14 inches in diameter. From base to top, Red is just a little bit over a foot tall. I think now's a good time to talk about the limb situation and whether or not we can consume those, because for a long time, the M&Ms had Caucasian arms and legs. So no one really knew if they were all human, half human, what was flesh, what was candy, or whatever. But in the woke rebrand,
maybe he doesn't like all the ugly new shoes he sees around him. Maybe he liked the sexy boots. Maybe the orange M&M is a secret sexist himself.
Now they're white, like not Caucasian white, but just like white color arms and legs. So are they wearing like clothes now? Is it still flesh under there? Is it chocolate under there? You know, what's the deal? Currently, the M&Ms are fun for all and, you know, very family friendly, but they didn't used to be like that. They used to be sexy.
Sexy boots.
I'm not like personally saying that I think the M&Ms are sexy. What I am saying is that M&M, the brand, wanted you to think they were sexy. And there was one sexy one in particular, Miss Green, who was for 6 years in a row on the back of Sports Illustrated's swimsuit edition.
If you think I got that hungry look, you should see the boys behind the camera. The nerve! I thought it was safe to change behind that rock, but they had photographers everywhere on that island. Well, that's about it. Thanks for looking, sweetie.
The topic of commodifying female sexuality and then attaching it to other goods, such as food, clothes, or body wash, is, a huge deep dive. It could be talked about for hours, and I'm nowhere near as smart or educated on the topic to really talk about it like that. But we can all kind of admit that it's weird, right? We probably shouldn't do that. And M&Ms have stopped doing what they were doing, but was that a value change or was that just the right business decision for them to make now? When Miss Green took her clothes off, oh my God, her arms stayed the color that they are. So I think it's fair to assume that even in the modern age, their limbs are not candy the same way that the rest of them is candy. When I'm eating Red, I'm just gonna eat the M&M part of him. Sorry my videos just get kind of deep out of nowhere. When I'm researching and I see something concerning, it feels wrong to not, at the very least, say that it's concerning. So there you go. Let's fucking eat this guy. Looking at his calories, a single M&M has 4.375 calories about. Now, if we scale that with our multiplier, we're getting 174,000 calories. And I know that seems really high, but that is a huge, just solid piece of chocolate. And the way we arrive at this is when you're scaling something in 3 dimensions, you're scaling all facets of it. So yes, Red is 34 times taller, but he's also 34 times wider than an M&M. So when we bring it up, we are bringing the calories times 34.15 cubed because it's in 3 dimensions. It's cubed. That is a ton of calories. It's more than I could even think to eat, in a single day. If I did split him up as just my food source, 2,000 calories a day, he would last me for 87 days. I could live for almost 3 months on just him alone. Hypothetically speaking, obviously. The calories are there, but he's missing so many nutrients. I would feel awful. It'd be a terrible experience for me and for him. So I think what I'm gonna do is kind of treat him as my sweet treat for the night, right? An M&M is 0.98 grams. So when we look at his total mass now, 39,000 grams, about 85 pounds. If I split that up by the average weight of a serving of M&Ms, we get 1219. Over 1,000 servings of M&Ms. And if I split that up with my girlfriend, we are looking at over a year and a half of M&Ms every single night. And I mean, M&Ms aren't that expensive. If you bought the big pack at Costco, you would buy $373 worth to get to his weight. So is it worth it to kill him for that? Yes, fuck you, Red.